Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at one of a couple of graded stakes races this Saturday at Saratoga. It's Alabama Day, but the other graded stakes run right before the feature event is the Grade 2 Ballston Spa. This one going as race 10 on the 12 race card Saturday at Saratoga. Older fillies and mares going the mile and a 16th distance on the turf course. 8 runners entered for the turf here. Chad Brown has a trio. That's never a surprise, Mike. We got multiple Chad Brown entries in this particular race, but I think one of those three is likely to take the bulk of support from that barn, the number 6, Segesta. She is a horse who has proven herself at the grade 1 level, so getting a little class relief here.
Yeah, she's won a couple of grade 1s, but it does feel like stepping back a little bit with her here on class is probably the right thing to do. And I do think stepping back makes her the horse to beat in here.
Yeah, on paper, she looks like way the horse to beat in this race. When I was handicapping it, I found it to be a little more competitive than I was expecting, just taking a first glance. I don't know if you had a similar experience, Mike, because Segesta can definitely win this race, but I don't think we're going to hand it to her at a very short price. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Ozara. She actually was the winner of the Ballston Spa last year, where she beat one of today's rivals, Deep Satin, on that occasion. The problem is Ozara had done a lot of winning up until that point. Since then, she's won just one of her last 5 starts. That was in a listed stakes race at Monmouth to start her season. Fair to say, though, Mike, the last couple spots that she's been in, things haven't quite worked out for her. Maybe some trip excuses at Woodbine 2 back, and last time she was just in over her head in the Grade 1 Diana, where she did finish behind today's rival Segesta, but she's another one that's getting class relief out of that race, and she'll be a much bigger price.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like she's a grade 1 horse, and so 3 of those last 5 races that you're talking about are grade 1s, and I just don't really feel like she fits in those races. I mean, I do recognize that Segesta was in 2 of those races as well and ran really well in those races, and Ozara did not. So, you do have to reckon with that. But as you point out, she'll be a better price here. I'm with you on the Woodbine race 2 back. To me, that was just not a good ride, and she was never in position to be effective there. And I liked her return from the left. I thought she ran well winning that race too. She likes Saratoga. She's got a good post here. She's a pretty tactical horse too. I mean, there are some races on her card where she's surprisingly far back, in my opinion, where she doesn't have to be. And I just feel like she can, if she shows up here and runs her A race, she can go with these horses at a fair price.
She is getting reunited with Dylan Davis, who was aboard for both of those stakes wins she earned last summer at Saratoga. The number 2 is Sunlit Uplands, and she is the European shipper in this race, and she is a well-traveled European shipper. She has raced in France, Great Britain, Italy, and Germany, and that's just over the course of her last 7 starts. So now she's going to be adding a 5th country to the mix as she comes to the United States for the first time. Mike, this horse, she changed barns, I believe, at the end of 2025 going into 2026. I think her old trainer retired, is still on board as an owner for her. She's run 3 times so far this year, like we said, 3 different countries. It's a little hard for me to gauge her form. It always is when these horses come in from countries like Italy and Germany. I will say she finished pretty well in her recent races, particularly that Group 3 win in Germany last time out. And we've seen these international shippers have a lot of success so far at the Saratoga meet.
We certainly have. Yeah, and I'm with you too. I feel like, boy, I don't really like many of her races overseas. I do feel like maybe the most recent one, though, is the best race that she's run. I don't know, what kind of competition it was against, and the trip was a really good one for her that day, but I like the way she finished that race off. That was a good performance. I didn't love her race 2 back when they sent her to Italy as much. She got wired by a big long shot in there. And to me, it never felt like she was going to win that race. I don't know, man. I didn't like her races enough to want to bet her in here, but I did take a long look at this horse.
The number 3 is Deep Satin. She is coming out of the Dolorose last time, which was won by And One More Time. We'll get to that replay and the winner of that race in a little bit. I would say that Deep Satin just didn't really have things go her way that day, Mike. I mean, she drew a wide post. That's happened to her quite a few times before, so nothing new there. But what didn't work out for her is that she broke through the gate prior to the start, I should say, which might have disrupted her mental game a little bit. And then she was much more forward during the race than we typically see her. Didn't think that was a terrible tactical move to make within the race, but clearly she didn't respond well to those tactics, kind of backing up to the stretch, also kind of taking a bump in upper stretch, maybe some of it her own doing, but just kind of felt like she wasn't really in the right mindset to run her A race last time. I thought she did okay against Grade 1 Company in the Just a Game 2 back, where she was just a little far back behind a race that was dominated on the front end. She was finishing well that day. She's run several races along the way during her career that suggest that she is good enough to hang with. Even the morning line favorite in this race Segesta, I think, think she run as well as that rival on a few occasions. But with her, it's a matter of just putting it all together on the day and getting the right trip.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it's not that hard to go through, especially her recent races. Since she left Saratoga, I would say last summer, it's not that hard to go through and just find excuse after excuse after excuse if you wanted to do that. I don't know how many more times I want to do it for her, David. And to me, she ultimately, when all is said and done, she just doesn't win enough, even when she gets good trips. And I would also just say, when they ran her here last year, she did win one of the divisions of the De La Rose, and of course Ozara won the other one. Ozara won the faster division of those races. And then when they met up in the Ballston Spa, I don't know how you feel about this or if you have an opinion on this. To me, Ozara was way better than this horse in that race.
Yeah, no argument. There are times when Deep Satin looks like she could win a grade one, and times when you wonder how you ever liked her in a grade one race, because she can be a little tough to trust at times. Price is going to be the determining factor for me in this race. The number 4 is Play with Fire. She is going to be the biggest price of the Chad Brown trio in here. I guess a good sign that they're taking another shot against Graded Stakes Company with this horse, Mike, because her seasonal debut was okay. I wouldn't say it was anything spectacular. She got a pretty good trip. She really had her chance to kick away from that field of the stretch, and she briefly did, but then got run down. It was a blanket finish in the late stages. I can't say that I ever loved her during her 3-year-old season, so I can't say that her 4-year-old performance off the layoff changed my opinion, but maybe she'll do better now second off the long break.
I think that's really the only case that you could make for her. And listen, she will be a price in this race. And so I'm not going to, take a huge stand against her in here. Maybe I liked her a little bit more than you did last year, but it's not like I was ever in love with this horse. She was bad, I thought, in the Valley View at the end of the year. And then if you just want to say she needed that race off the layoff last time, I guess that's fine. I kind of feel like, considering the trip she got and the run that she got to make a clear lead in the stretch, you kind of got to win there, man. I mean, but maybe she just needed the race.
The number 5 is And One More Time. She is coming off a victory in the De La Rose, trying to pull off the same double that Ozara did last year, as now she comes in to this Ballston Spa looking to make it 2 in a row. Pretty easy to make an excuse for her loss between these 2 victories in the Plenty of Grace and the De La Rose 2-back, Mike, when she was 5th in the Just a Game, because she was wide. Her stablemate went out to the front end. It seemed like at One More Time, the rider was under no illusions that he should press that foe early, so just rated her 3 wide on both turns. That clearly was never going to work out for her. Other than that, she's run pretty well. I do think that she is at her very best going the flat mile distance, and even a step beyond that maybe sometimes exposes a few stamina deficiencies with this horse. And I'll be interested to see if that pace projector plays out as it's shown on screen, because yes, she does look like the fastest early, but there are a couple others that could go in here, particularly the number 8, Long Ago, who is putting blinkers on.
Yeah, I could see maybe this pace being a little bit more competitive than that. I think the other thing to point out as far as the pace goes is that Segesta is a very handy kind of horse. I think she's going to be sitting right up close in this race. And so maybe that won't be ideal for One More Time either. That being said, I just really like her recent form. I'm with you on the excuse 2-back. She also, to me, had a huge excuse in the Pegasus World Cup Filly and Mare Turf, and she ran way better than that running line might suggest that she did. And other than outside of that, her form is excellent since she came back from the long layoff. She's definitely a major player in here.
The number 6, Segesta, she is just way the horse to beat in this race. Like Mike said, she's a 2-time grade 1 winner. She is a horse who has been placed in grade 1 stakes in the 2 losses since then, the Just a Game 2-back and the Diana last time. We'll take a look at the most recent of those grade 1 placings, where she just could not contain the late surge from her stablemate Kathy and Marissa, who might be the best turf horse, best female turf horse in the country right now. Segesta, Mike, like you said, she's got good tactical speed. She can make her own good trips. In this race, I think that Flavian Pratt would be content to be 2 wide stalking And One More Time, or sitting in the pocket if Long Ago decides to go up and press that main rival. So Segesta has options in here. She's getting some class relief. The only knock is she's pretty obvious and is going to be a very short price.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have anything to add to it. She's a very logical horse in here, and I do think she is the horse to beat. And maybe ultimately these horses just won't be able to beat her as she steps back in class. I have no argument with anybody who looks at the race that way. I think she's fine. I don't think she's some kind of standout necessarily in here, but she's clearly the horse to beat.
The number 7, Grayosh, she'll probably be the middle price of the Chad Brown trio in here. And, Mike, she was a horse that ran really well up at Saratoga during her 3-year-old season. She's got that high-profile win where she upset She Feels Pretty, who looked like the best 3-year-old filly on turf at that point in time. And she had those really 2 good Saratoga performances that she put back-to-back that summer. And it's fair to say that after that, she was kind of a disappointment. I mean, her 4-year-old campaign, she didn't do a whole lot that really got me excited. And, she dropped into allowance optional claiming races a couple of times, needed even a couple of chances to win one of those. So it felt like she lost her way a little bit. But since coming back for this 5-year-old campaign, I do like some of the things that I've seen more. She got the win off the layoff in that allowance race back in April. And while she was no match for the winner, Gimme Another in the Eatontown following that at Monmouth Park, I did like the way that she leveled off in the late stages of that race, and it looked like she was going to be a clear third. And then she tried to almost come get the second place finisher across the wire. Obviously, the form flattered when the winner, Gimme Another, came back to win the Beverly D in her next start. And then we'll take a look at the most recent race for Grayosh when she got back to the winner's circle in a graded stakes, taking down the matchmaker. I mean, like, this is a horse that if you start to go back through her form, has gotten no pace to close into for a whole series of starts in a row, but she is finishing well. She finishes well in this race. And if some of these, things that we're talking about play out on the racetrack, like Segesta applies pressure and one more time or Long Ago goes, maybe this is the race where Grayosh finally gets a little more pace to close into. And I think in her current form, that could make her dangerous.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this race sets up and if it does, in fact, set up well for her. I would just say, as opposed to that race that we just watched where she closed down the matchmaker, going to have some better horses in front of her this time that she's going to have to close down. She has that going, that working against her. Also, just the Eatontown was like a joke of a race. She actually ran really well in there, considering how slow they went early in there. They were just sprinting through the stretch. I actually feel like that was an underrated performance. And that's one of the reasons that you could have liked her last time, and the matchmaker at a really good price. I think she is a contender in this race, David, but it's going to be harder for her to win this race than it was for her to win that race.
Rounding out this field is the number 8 Long Ago, another horse coming out of the matchmaker at Monmouth. She also competed in the Miss Liberty 2 back at Monmouth, so beaten by a couple of today's rivals, Ozara and Grayosh, in her last couple of starts. I didn't think there was any excuse to back where she was setting a pretty moderate pace in the Miss Liberty. She maybe ran a little better last time in the matchmaker where she never saw the rail, was 2 to 3 wide around the track. But still, I thought Grayosh ran better on that occasion. They are putting blinkers on. She's run some nice races from the front end in the past, so I wonder how aggressive Kendrick Carmouche is going to be early in this race.
Yeah, I can see the tactics being just that. Put the blinkers on and send her off to the front here as she clearly faces a tougher field. And so we'll see if that's what they're going to try to do here. To get a better result. I'm with you. Her last 2 races are fine, but I didn't see excuses for her, and she got beat by 2 horses she's facing again.
Let's go to our picks for this grade 2 Ballston Spa, one of 2 graded stakes this Saturday at Saratoga. Mike, I don't think either one of us have the morning line favorite Segesta on top, that we've got her in the mix. Where are you going to land?
Yeah, I'm going to try Ozara in this race and just hope she gets a good trip in here. I do think her top effort will give her some kind of a chance to win. I think she's going to be a fair price in here. So I'm going to hope that she can rebound here out of the Diana. I'm not way against Segesta, but I've never really been a huge fan of hers, David. And I'm going to try to beat her with the 1 and the 5.
I was tempted to go back to the number 3 Deep Satin, who I've liked a couple times this year, and I feel like there have been excuses, but my trust in her is starting to wane a little bit, Mike. So I didn't want to take another, relatively short price on her. I just think the number 7 Grayosh has kind of subtly gotten things back on track lately and would be a decent price in this race. So I elected to put her on top. 7-3-6-2 for me and 1-5-6-7 for Mike in the grade 2 Ballston Spa race 10 at Saratoga on Saturday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.